Okay, you guys. Hey, listen, we have a scheduled live that we are starting at 11:30, and for some reason we're having some technical difficulties, if you can imagine. So give me just a second. We're just going to share this in the normal way, and hopefully we can figure this out for tomorrow. There's always, exciting things with technology, isn't there? So anyway, here we go. So listen, um, I'm Sandra Cohn. Hello. And I'm hoping that you guys can join. We have this whole fancy setup all done with Facebook where we went in and we scheduled this, and I was supposed to just be able to pop in. For some reason, it's not working. So we're just going to do this the old-fashioned way. So listen, my goal is to, well, the whole reason I'm hopping on live today is that I'm doing a 4-day series on studio lighting and how to create studio or beautiful natural looking light with artificial lighting. For those of you who don't know me, oh hey Oren, yay, I'm glad people are finding me and it's working. Okay, listen, for those of you who are new to this community or who don't know me, I'm Sandra Cohn and I am a portrait photographer based in Seattle, Washington, and I specialize in newborns and families and classic portraiture and film photography. So that's a little bit about what I do. If you're watching live, I see people are coming in and they're saying hi. Just say hello. Hey, Nicholas. Let me know you're here. Let me know you can see this okay. If you're joining us by replay, just let me know in the comments also. You can just say replay to let us know you're watching the replay, and then tell us where you're from, where you're watching from. Those who are joining live, I'd love to hear what kind of work you do and what you specialize in while everybody's joining and we're getting started. So listen, in addition to my portrait studio. Hey, Gabby. In addition to running a portrait studio and doing all of that, I am also an educator. So I teach on platforms like Creative Live and Kelby One. I speak at conferences and I teach classes on my own and do in-person workshops and mentoring, all sorts of things. So I'm a very busy lady. But it wasn't always that way. I wasn't always this, I guess, excited about teaching things. I kind of came to teaching lighting a little bit by accident, just because I saw, what it did for me and for my business, and I really wanted to share that with other people. So my goal for these little mini lessons is to keep them pretty short and succinct. I have notes so I don't go off on some sort of tangent, which I tend to do. My goal is just to have you here today for 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then we can continue the conversation inside of the group if need be. So that's kind of our goal for today. So why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? So I started teaching lighting I think about 5 or 6 years ago. And in the beginning I was teaching, hey Ashley, in the beginning I was teaching just to film photographers. And the reason for that is that I was a film photographer, I am a film photographer, and I couldn't find any resources on studio lighting specific to film photography, and there are some differences. So I just decided to teach myself and then start teaching others. I've since gone on to include hybrid photographers and digital photographers. So in my course, I have lessons for all the things and all the ways. So no matter what kind of photography you do, you're going to get something out of these little mini classes. But why I'm coming in and doing this series on Facebook this week is that over the years, teaching this, I see a lot of the same questions come up, a lot of the same concerns, and I hear a lot of the same reasons from people why they stay away from lighting and why they don't use it in their life and their work. And it just so happens that the things that I'm hearing from other people are the excuses that I had for myself in my own work as well. So this week, I wanted to talk about that. We're going to look at some of the concerns and questions that come up most often when I'm teaching this, and we're just going to kind of put a lot of myths to rest and hopefully empower you and help you feel inspired to be able to bring this into your own work. So again, I see people are logging in. Hello. Just say hi. Tell me the kind of work that you do, where you're from. And again, if you're watching the replay, share that you're watching the replay. So today I want to talk to you about the actual costs, like what dealing with bad light is costing you as a photographer and as a business owner. And I'm wanting to start here because I feel like this isn't something that we really think about or quantify. But now that I've had distance in my own business between, when I used to struggle and now, I realize that this is a really important discussion to have. And so that's where we're going to start the conversation. So backstory on me, I've been a photographer at the time of this recording for going on 20 years, so a really, really long time. And most of that time, I was a natural light photographer. And being a natural light photographer was something I was actually really, really proud of. And I think there's good reasons for that. I mean, natural light is really beautiful, and knowing how to see it and how to work with it is really something special that we can do as photographers that not everybody can do. Not everybody can see that and know how to work with it. And we have that innately. That's part of our gift. But the problem with natural light is that obviously it's not always available. And today here in Seattle, it's a great example. It's raining and it's dark. And, even at almost noon, on the middle of the day, it would be too dark to work in my daylight studio, which is natural light. It's a problem a lot of us have, right? Some days are dark, sometimes it rains. Sometimes you walk into a situation that's less than perfect. And please feel free to raise your hand if you've ever been in one of those situations. So I'm seeing some wedding photographers in the group, right? Like, how many times have you walked into a getting ready room or at some point in a wedding and there's just been not enough light to work with, right? Or you are a lifestyle photographer or you're on location photographer and you walk into your client's home and there's just not enough light. Then what do you do? Well, that's what I always struggled with in my work. So when I had enough light, I could create really beautiful images and actually award-winning images. I won a lot of awards during my natural light days. But the problem was I couldn't do it consistently. And so, when I didn't have light, I really struggled. And I remember this so vividly. I remember doing all the things. Like, first of all, I would watch the weather, constantly, looking at weather forecasts. And I would actually try to schedule my shoots around it because I wanted to make sure I had the best possible conditions to work in. But that really limited me to how I was able to book or when I was able to see clients. Would do that. On days when I did have sessions and it was really dark, I remember just waking up and it would just I'd be filled with dread. And I'd be walking into the studio, going through what I was going to try to do in my head to make this work, knowing that I didn't have enough light, knowing that it was going to be a tricky situation. And I would do what I think a lot of photographers do. So first thing I would do back in those days is I would grab my digital camera and I'd crank up my ISO to as high as it could go, right? Anybody ever done that? Raise your hand. Let me know I'm not alone. And then I would just milk the light as much as I could. So I would shoot wide open, f2, f2.8. I'd be shooting handheld at a 60th of a second, everything I could do just to get as much light as possible. And while sometimes that worked, right? You can photograph one person at f2 and it's really beautiful, but it also didn't work. So if I was working with a family, I can't photograph a family of 5 well at f2. I just can't. Somebody's going to be out of focus. And it was really, really stressful. Or, maybe I can work with an adult who's going to sit there and follow directions and photograph them shooting at a 60th of a second. But if I have a family, if I have little kids, if I have toddlers running around, that becomes really, really hard. And again, that stressed me out. And not only did it stress me out, it made me feel bad about myself. I felt like a fraud. I felt like I was, not giving my best to my clients, because all the work that I had on my portfolio, all the work that I had on my website were these beautiful light-filled images, and I couldn't always produce those. And that's what my people expected. So for me, the cost of not knowing how to use lighting was a huge blow to my confidence. It caused stress. It made me feel like a fraud, all those things that are just not good feelings. Anybody there with me? Ever felt that way? It's a safe place. You can share. All right. So the other thing that happened is, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, is that it really affected my business in how I could even book my clients. So I would be constantly trying to guess the weather and schedule around that. Thank you, whoever just sent me a thumbs up. You've had this thing too. I'm not alone. But that was really stressful. So that hit me really hard in the busy season, because as a portrait photographer, my busy season is in that fall, getting ready for the holidays. That also is when my light here in Seattle starts to go away. Once that fall, winter months start coming in, days get dark, and suddenly, just as days were getting dark, increase in demand in my business went up. And I had to turn away a lot of sessions. I had to reschedule or cancel. And again, that was really stressful. The other problem was, if I'm being honest, I wasn't able to produce my best work. So again, my clients would come to me expecting to get the kind of images that they were seeing in my portfolio on my website, and I wasn't always able to do that consistently. And so I would get unhappy clients from time to time. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that, but I can tell you, if you haven't, you're super lucky. But there is no worse feeling in the world than getting that email from a client that says that they're disappointed and they're really unhappy with your images. It's kind of devastating. And getting that kind of feedback would just knock me out. I would feel terrible. I would literally cry and be like, I should just quit because I'm a big fat fraud and I don't know how to do, my job, because I can't always produce good images. Now I know that there's a real simple workaround to that, right? I learned how to create natural looking light, and now I've got that consistency, and I know that there's not a situation that I walk into that I can't handle. If I've got beautiful natural light in a window, no problem, I can do that. But I can also walk into a situation with bad light or no light, and I can handle that too. So that really changed everything for me. Now listen, I'm sharing these stories with you because, again, I have heard from photographers over the years, and I know that we all had these struggles, right? We can all share. But I'm wanting to start the discussion for this week and this week of free classes, mini classes, with this discussion, because I think it's an important one. A lot of the reasons that I hear from people why they stay away from studio lighting is that it's so expensive and it's too complicated. But I want us to reframe that and start looking at, well, what is the actual cost of not doing it? How is this affecting your business and your confidence and your clients and all those things? How is walking into a situation and scrambling and stressing really affecting your business? Because my guess is, if you really sat down and really thought about it and did some introspection, you would see, like I did, that all of those problems that I just listed are real. And not only are they going to affect you and your stress level, they're going to affect your clients, and they're going to affect your bottom line. They're going to affect your business. If you want to have a successful business, and if you know me, you know that I talk about business all the time, part of that is having a really solid brand. And part of having a solid brand is being able to consistently produce the quality of work that your clients expect from you. That's part of your job as a professional photographer. So that is where I'm going to start it. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to get into, in our live, we're going to talk about why we put ourselves through all of this. So for me, I struggled with this low light, stress, feeling horrible situation I just described. Are you ready for it? For like almost 13 years, I put myself through that. And I resisted learning studio lighting and embracing studio lighting for as long as I did, because I had a lot of misconceptions and beliefs around studio lighting and what it was. And, you know, it held me back. It hurt my business for a very, very long time. So tomorrow I'm going to share that piece. We're going to look at what some of those myths are and some of the misconceptions and have a real conversation about that as well. But today I just want you to start thinking about this. What is dealing with bad lighting actually costing you? Is it worth it? And I'm going to invite you to have this conversation. Oh, Rachel just said, I'm appreciating this real conversation. Thank you, Rachel. I was actually nervous about having this conversation today, but I think it's important. Okay, so you know how, like, I don't know how many of you have ever been in a book club, right? Like a book club, but you know, in a book club, you all get together, you read a book, right? Or you listen to it, or you know, look at the cover, and then you all get together and you discuss it. Well, I'm kind of wanting to carry this conversation on sort of like a book club. So what I'm wanting to happen is I'm inviting you all into my private Facebook group, and I'm going to link that in a second, but it's my education group in there. I would love you all to join, and I'm going to post this question that we've just had, like, what is bad lighting actually costing you? And let's have that conversation. Let's be honest about it. We've all dealt with it. We've all been there. So let's just kind of discuss it like book club style a little bit today. And then again tomorrow, I'll come in and we'll go on to part 2 of this series. All right. So let me, I'm going to just get my education group up there for you really quick. And I want to invite you all there. And let's carry this conversation on in there. And then I do want to get to a couple of the comments. And like I said, friends, if you are joining in the replay, just let us know you're in the replay, but also share your comments and tag me, because I will go in and I will read them. So Rachel, I appreciate your comment. Thank you. Jacqueline saying I can relate to the stress. I've invested in a lighting setup for my studio and can't seem to get the look I want naturally. Okay, well, I'm going to help you with that, Jacqueline. So just keep joining in, and I can teach you. It's actually, once you see how I do it, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, it's actually much easier than I thought. So stick with me, and I'm going to teach you everything you know to create a natural light look with studio lighting. All right, you guys. Now, I promised I wasn't going to go long. But here we are at almost 20 minutes. Rachel says it's so important, and most webinars are too silly. Happy to buy what makes sense, but I appreciate the dialogue. Thank you, Rachel. And okay, so I'm going to log out because I'm really trying to keep these at a reasonable time, and I want to carry on this conversation in the Facebook group. I will see you all back here tomorrow at the same time, 11:30 Pacific, and we'll carry on with part 2 of this conversation. Okay? See David? All right. Okay, I'll see you there.